This video is sponsored by Squarespace. From websites and online stores to marketing tools and analytics, Squarespace is the all-in-one platform to build a beautiful online presence and run your business. Hey, it's Chris, and today we're going to be talking about why people buy Apple products. Now, if you already own an Apple product, then you probably just want to know, why do other people buy Apple products? Do they have the same reasons as you do? And if you don't own an Apple product, maybe you think Apple's overpriced, what are the reasons that people are paying for Apple products? I asked you guys what you thought, and you submitted all kinds of answers, way too many for me to even include here. So what I did was categorize everything, and it turns out there's about 16 reasons that you guys gave for why you buy Apple products. And we're gonna go through those right now. The number one thing that I heard over and over and over again, by far, and I'm sure you can guess it, was the ecosystem. Now, we've talked about this a lot. You guys have heard about it all over the place. I actually made a video about this a while back, and I'll link it up down below so you can check it out further. For right now, we're just gonna limit it to basically saying that it makes people more efficient. At least I feel like it makes me more efficient because everything's so integrated. Just the hardware and the software, and not just between one or two devices, between all the different Apple devices. So things like AirDrop, that definitely is something that makes me feel like I'm able to get work done quite a bit quicker, for instance. And across the Apple ecosystem, I feel like you also see that polish. Things just tend to work really nicely. Not everything, of course. Apple's not perfect, but in the overall scheme of things, there's nobody else that offers the same kinds of devices or that amount of devices, along with some software where things just work. So the ecosystem is a big thing, but it's comprised of all the little things that make it so nice. Another thing that people really like is Apple's stance on privacy. Now the key word is stance, because of course, no company can guarantee that everything that you do on your devices is gonna be 101% private. But Apple cares enough to have a stance, and the overall gist here is that your data is not going to be what you're paying with when you use Apple's products. And that can't be said about certain other companies. Longevity was another big issue for people, at least for this audience, right? So being able to buy a device and have it last for several years. And a lot of people have had experiences that you cited where you bought an Apple device and you got a lot of use out of it. That's number one. Number two, which was kind of surprising, I didn't even think about this, but it makes sense, was people saying that the looks, the aesthetics didn't get old, so they aged really well. So Apple kind of came out with these classic designs that maybe they look a little thicker or chunkier a couple years later, but they don't look out of date. A huge part of this longevity bonus, we'll call it, is that Apple tends to support their devices for many years. You can see this in cell phones, where Apple has iOS support for generations, maybe like 5 generations of phones. So you can keep using that old phone and you don't have to upgrade every single year or every 2 years even. And you know that your device is gonna be supported with the latest software. That's pretty cool. Another huge motivator for Apple customers is resale value. So being able to take a device and find that it still has value, sell it, and be able to use that money to get a new device. Now, I'm gonna check out my notes here, and I can see that the iPhone 10 retailed for $999 brand new, and 9 months later, it was still worth $690. Pretty incredible. Let's compare that to the Galaxy S9, which was $720 brand new. 9 months later, it was only worth $290. So that's a drastic difference. Another thing that you guys love is just the simplicity of Apple's product. Unlike other types of computers, you don't necessarily have to know how to build it. You just take it out of the box and it works. Now, I'm not downplaying that. Some people love to tinker around and upgrade stuff, but with Macs or iPads or iPhones, you don't have to do that. Apple as a culture is obsessed with simplicity. So it's not just the actual products. Here's a great example. The Fifth Avenue store, which is famous for that cube design of long ago, started out with 90 panes of glass. And I don't know why Apple did this. I'm sure they actually had a reason besides just simplifying it. But they took that down and put up a new structure with just 15 panes of glass. They simplified it. It's amazing. And that translates, though, that culture into really easy to use products. One thing that I can appreciate myself, that several of you have echoed, is just the fact that Apple stores exist. How many companies in the tech space have their own set of stores? And if you need some problem solved, you can just make an appointment and go in and talk to a real human in person and hopefully get it fixed. Or if you just want to buy something and not wait 2 days for it to arrive, or if you want to see what it looks like, touch it, feel it, hold it, before you get it, before you order it, you can go into the store and do that. Now, I'll admit, the closest Apple store for me is like 50 miles away or something. It's not super close, but it is close enough that if I pre-ordered something, it's worth it to go an hour down the road and pick it up. Recently, we took in a Mac for a keyboard issue. Ha, you guys know about that. And it was fixed within like 2 days. They did have to send it off, but I dropped it off the store and it came back, not to the store, but to my house in like 2 business days. It was incredible. It was a great turnaround. And it happened over the weekend. So it wasn't even like during business hours that I was out of commission. Pretty awesome. Something else that really sets Apple apart that you guys have said that you appreciate is Apple's own apps. I'm not just talking about iMessage right now, even though that's what always comes up in the conversations, although several people, of course, did mention iMessage, but just the apps that come pre-installed, like GarageBand. What a high quality piece of software that comes on your Mac for free that you can use. And there's others. And besides that, there's also some really great premium apps that are available to you, like Final Cut Pro, which I use all the time, which is so well optimized. The export times are insane. Family sharing is another very awesome thing that Apple has provided to customers that lets you save money. And who doesn't want that at this time when so many subscriptions are hitting us out of nowhere? And it's partly Apple's fault, right? Apple's pushing into services because they want to make more money. iPhone sales are down, whatever. We have a lot of subscriptions. So to be able to sign up for Apple Music and share that with other people in the house so that everybody doesn't have to pay for their own subscription, or Apple News Plus, maybe Apple Arcade as that rolls out, that is a huge, huge bonus. Another thing that's great, and I kind of hinted at this, we touched on this just barely when we were talking about Apple stores, but customer service. Apple has really good customer service. In my experience, 7 out of 8 customer service calls are really just handled really well, especially when it comes to pro support. Pro support with Apple is absolutely amazing, phenomenal. If I had some other great word to describe it that sounds like hyperbole, I would, because it's that good. I call it a couple times a year at least, and somebody so knowledgeable always answers, helps me out, whether I just need to learn something, I just don't know how to do it, or whether there's an actual problem and they walk me through it. I've never had a bad experience when it came to Apple's Pro support. At this point, we're gonna get to design. And honestly, I'm surprised that it took this long to get to this item. But this is sort of an order of how often everything was mentioned. So design, Apple has beautiful, iconic, and simple designs. And it's not just their products. You can see it in their new spaceship looking headquarters. So everything that makes an Apple product great is summed up in this design. Simple, easy to use, looks good, looks premium. Something else that's great about being an Apple customer is just the community. There's so many awesome Apple users all around the world, whether it's just a group of people at your school or work, or whether you go to an event or an Apple store like WWDC, and you can hang out with other people who like the same things that you do and have played the same games, use the same apps, or you can talk about the camera. There's so many Apple users out there that it's very easy to just fit in. Here's something that I thought was very honest. Several people said they're buying Apple products just because they're used to it. And honestly, I kind of agree there. Like, that's me to some extent. Now, I love to experiment. I love to see everything that's out there, all the new innovations, Apple or otherwise. So this concept of familiarity, that makes sense to me, because for me personally, building this channel, it's all been done using Apple gear. And before that, when this was a blog instead of a YouTube channel, that was built on Apple gear. And way back in college, I learned how to do design and stuff on Apple gear. And even way back in grade school, that I was playing Oregon Trail on Macs. So being familiar with something, as long as it works, it doesn't hold you back, it just makes sense. It's an honest answer. The App Store was another reason that several people listed, and that makes sense. A lot of apps come to the Apple ecosystem before they hit other platforms. And you know that Apple's walled garden approach is going to do a better job than maybe some other platforms of keeping things safer, maybe more secure. And again, we're circling back to the ecosystem, because something you buy on your phone may also be available on your tablet or on your Apple TV or your Apple Watch. So making one purchase here and spreading that around to all your other devices is really awesome. Another big reason is exclusive apps. So there are several apps that you can only get if you have an iPhone or an iPad. For instance, TimePage, the beautiful calendar app by Moleskine, I don't know how you pronounce it, but it looks great, and you're not gonna find that anywhere else. Another good example is Overcast, which honestly, I like the features, but I don't love the design. But still, the ability to clip out like your favorite parts of a show and share that on social media is really awesome. Apollo for Reddit is probably the best way to browse Reddit, in my opinion. That's only on iOS. Enlight, the photo editor, Hyperlapse for Instagram, which came out forever ago, that was always iOS only for the longest time. Maybe it still is. Bear, the note-taking app, which I'm currently using. I like to switch around a lot, but I love Bear. That is only available in the Apple ecosystem too. And here's something that's down here at the bottom of the list, but Apple Pay. And you know what? I love Apple Pay. We're getting back to that ecosystem again, because I can use it on my phone, I can use it on my watch. My favorite way to use it is on my watch. I'm super happy that Target finally got Apple Pay. I can basically go out of the house now without my wallet. If I need gas, I can just use my watch. Groceries, watch. I can go to Whole Foods, Walgreens, watch. Apple Pay is really awesome. Okay, this last thing I saved for the end, because honestly, I don't think it's the best reason to be buying Apple stuff, but a lot of people said they buy Apple products just to flex, just to look good. They want the AirPods so that people see them, or the Apple Watch just to be seen with it, or that shiny new Mac with that Mac look. And it just tells people that, yeah, you had the money to afford that or whatever, but that's not a great reason to buy it. Although I know several of you told me that is why you buy Apple stuff. But you know what? You shouldn't care what other people think, whether you do or don't have Apple stuff. I think it's safe to say that people have found a lot of reasons why they should go with Apple. And you know what? There's a lot of reasons why you should consider going with today's sponsor, Squarespace. I've been a Squarespace user for a long time, so it was a no-brainer when they approached me to sponsor some content on this channel. Both Daily Tech and MySlicedApple.com run on Squarespace, and they did before they contacted me. There's no design skills actually required, but of course you can tweak stuff and really dial in the look you're after. I also love the low-maintenance approach since it's an all-in-one platform. There's no plugins to install, no patches, no upgrades to mess around with. Everything is just handled for you. Squarespace has award-winning customer service too. When I was setting up My Sliced Apple, Squarespace support answered some very vital questions for me that helped me get started down the right path. You can easily register a new domain with Squarespace, and you can also easily transfer a domain to Squarespace. And again, I've done both. If you need to launch and run an online store, you can do that too with Squarespace. There's some tools for easy management of products, orders, and inventory. I really think you're gonna like Squarespace because I do. Head over to Squarespace for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, use the link down in my description to save 10% off your first order. Two things just to wrap this up that I noticed that nobody said as reasons why they buy Apple products was, number one, because they were cheap, because they're not cheap. Although, I've been thinking about making a video about living in the Apple ecosystem on a budget, which is totally doable. If you guys are interested in that video, give me a thumbs up on the video and let me know down in the comments too. The other thing is Siri. You could have guessed that. Nobody's buying an Apple device right now because it comes with Siri. But you know what? Siri is still very useful to me. I like to use, hey, Siri, sorry if I activated your stuff, all the time. I used it earlier today just to make a phone call while I was out on a walk, and all I had was my watch and my AirPods, and it worked perfectly. So it's very convenient, but it's not really a selling point at the same time, if that makes sense. All right, if I missed anything, then please leave me a comment down below. Let me know what your other reasons for buying Apple stuff is. And don't forget, you can follow @DailyTech, spelled Daily T-E-K-K, on Instagram and Twitter, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Later.